Hey everyone, and welcome. If you're here, it's probably because you want to get better at speaking Mandarin, right? Well, today we're going to skip the usual tips and tricks. Instead, I'm going to walk you through a complete blueprint. Think of it as a clear, step-by-step plan for building your fluency from the very beginning.
So this is the big question, isn't it? What's the secret to speaking Mandarin fluently? So many of us are looking for that one magic bullet, that one little hack that will unlock everything. But the truth is, well, there is no secret. The real answer is a lot more like a construction project.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a secret, it's a blueprint. See, to get truly fluent, you have to build your skills in a very specific order. It's just like building a house. You would never, ever try to put the roof on before you've even laid the foundation, right? It just wouldn't work. And that's exactly what this plan is all about. We're going to construct your fluency piece by piece in the right order. Okay, section 1, the groundwork. So before we even think about pouring any concrete, we need to get one thing straight. There's a fundamental principle here that you absolutely have to understand. And it's all about the balance. The balance between what you take in, your input, and what you can produce, your output. Now, take a close look at this ratio. If you're a beginner or intermediate learner, let's say you know fewer than 3,000 characters, your study time should look like this. 95%, 95 should be input. That's reading and listening, and only a tiny 5% should be on output, like speaking. Now, I know that probably sounds completely backward, right? But here's the golden rule, and I want you to really let this sink in. You can only say what you already know. Your speaking ability is a direct reflection of the language you've absorbed. All right, section 2, building your foundation. It's all about input first. So now, we are literally going to start laying that concrete foundation. And listen, the skills we're about to talk about, these are the absolute non-negotiables. You just have to build these first before you get too hung up on speaking. And your foundation, it really rests on 3 core pillars. Okay, pillar number 1. Perfect your pronunciation. We need to make sure there are absolutely no gaps in your tones or your sounds. Get that stuff rock solid. Pillar number 2, learn to read characters. Why? Because it's the single most efficient way to get comprehensible input. And finally, pillar number 3, immerse yourself in listening every single day. This is how you start to absorb the natural sound and rhythm of the language. So let's talk about a specific target for a moment, 3,000. This is a really important number. You should be aiming for a vocabulary of at least 3,000 characters. And no, that's not just some random number I pulled out of a hat. 3,000 is kind of the tipping point. It's where you can start reading real-world stuff, articles, simple books, and actually understand most of it. And when you can do that, your listening skills just take off. This quote really says it all when it comes to that third pillar, listening. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. And that applies perfectly here. If you're not already listening to Mandarin every single day, well, the best time to start was when you first began learning. But the second best time? It's right now, today. Okay, section 3, the framework. So imagine our foundation is poured and it's solid. Now it's time to start building the frame of the house. This section is all about the practical mechanics of speaking, kind of like the nuts and bolts of how to actually produce the sounds more effectively. And the very first tool in your toolbox is so simple, but it is so powerful. And it's this: slow down. I mean it. I want you to try and reduce your speaking speed by about 20 or 30%. Just look at the difference here. By slowing down, you give your brain a fighting chance to catch up and process everything, and you'll pronounce each word so much more clearly. And don't worry about sounding weird. Plenty of native speakers are very articulate and deliberate when they talk. Slowing down also means you can start using pauses intentionally. Seriously, don't be afraid of a little silence. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of control. If you really pay attention to native speakers, you'll hear them do this all the time. They'll use little gaps in longer sentences to gather their thoughts. This is a totally natural thing to do, and you should do it too. And here's another tool that native speakers use constantly: filler words. Yeah, you heard me. We're often taught to avoid these, but you really shouldn't. Words like 这个 and 那个, they're basically the Chinese equivalent of or like. They're completely normal, they are a natural part of speech, and they buy you valuable time to think. So please, start using them. Okay, section 4, the interior. Our house has a foundation and a frame.
Now it's time to start furnishing it. This section is all about practicing smarter, not just harder. We're going to look at habits that will lead to real, lasting improvements in your speaking. Now, this is a really big one. I need you to make a major shift in how you think about learning. You need to stop focusing on learning single, isolated words. Think about it. We don't talk in single words, do we? We talk in phrases, in chunks. And that's how you should be learning. Focus on learning and reviewing full phrases and complete sentences. It's a total game changer.
And one of the absolute best ways to practice with full sentences is a technique called shadowing. It's incredibly powerful. All you do is you listen to some native audio and you try to speak along with it at the same time. You're trying to copy everything, the pronunciation, the rhythm, the intonation, as closely as you can. Now, you're not going to keep up at first, and that's okay. The point is to build that muscle memory for how the language is supposed to flow.
Here are a couple more smart techniques. First, talk to yourself. I know, it sounds a little strange, but it's an amazing way to figure out where the gaps in your knowledge are, what you don't know how to say. And hey, here's a little pro tip. Just pop in some headphones and everyone will assume you're on a phone call. Another great one is to practice writing. Writing is basically just speaking in slow motion. It gives you the time to build sentences correctly without any pressure. And finally, section 5, the roof. It's time to put the roof on our house. This last part is all about mindset. Because you can do all the hard work, but if you don't have the right mindset, it can all come crashing down. This is what protects all of your effort and lets you keep moving forward. Okay, this might be the single biggest barrier to speaking for most people, your ego. You have to let it go. And here's the honest truth, and I mean this in the kindest way possible. Nobody really cares about your mistakes. Seriously, people are wrapped up in their own lives. If you mess up a tone and someone chuckles, who cares? Just laugh with them and move on. Don't let that fear of making a mistake paralyze you. And part of letting go of your ego is this. Stop trying to sound so smart. You don't need to use big, complex words or complicated grammar. The goal of communication is just to be understood. It's about clarity, not complexity. When you use simple, direct language, you're actually more likely to get your point across, and you'll feel a whole lot less stressed while doing it. And that brings us to maybe the most important mindset piece of all. And I'm just going to be really blunt here. You have to push through the part where you feel like you suck, because you will. For a while, it's going to feel awkward. You're going to stumble over your words. You're going to feel clumsy. And you have to understand that is a completely normal, unavoidable part of the process. So the key, the real secret, if there is one, is to embrace that feeling. You have to learn to love that discomfort. Because when you feel like you're struggling, when you're searching for words and feel totally out of your depth, that's it. That is the exact moment that you are getting better. That feeling is the feeling of progress. It only ever happens when you're outside your comfort zone. So there you have it. That's the full blueprint. We've talked about the groundwork, the foundation, the framework, the interior, and the roof that protects it all. The entire plan is laid out for you. So the only question left is, what's the very first brick you're going to lay? What is the one single thing you're going to do today to start building your house of fluency?